My next presenter is with Jonathan Gagné. He is the CEO of Masterpiece VR, who is also the sponsor for this year's GDEX event. He will be discussing with us the making of Masterpiece VR using VR and machine learning to democratize 3D. Today, less than 0.1% of people who have the technical ability to create 3D models. The mission is to enable anyone to be able to take whatever they imagine in their heads and then easily create a digital copy of it. In 2015, Masterpiece VR, the team over there started a company from nothing to make this a reality. Experts told them it was impossible. Thankfully, they were wrong. Today, they have a strong team of over 25 and greatly simplified creating 3D content. They used virtual reality and machine learning to help people create content 10 times faster, and their software is over 200 times faster to learn than traditional tools. What was the first in the world with real-time co-creation, letting remote team workers work together. They have over 30,000 people using their tools today and are determined to grow until they have democratized 3D content creation for everybody. So Jonathan, we see you and we're about to hear you, man. I'm going to pipe you in. Let's do a little mic check real quick.
Hey, how you doing?
Perfect. All right. I'm always holding my breath, making sure that works.
Absolutely.
All right. So whenever you're ready to go, the show floor is yours, man.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody, for being out here, and thanks for giving the chance to chat about this. So I'm here today to talk about both the story of the making of Masterpiece VR, as well as how all of you can use this technology to really simplify and accelerate creating 3D content, especially for those of you who don't have any previous experience creating 3D modeling. Here's now an opportunity where you can do so. So a little bit about me. I'm the CEO, as mentioned, of Masterpiece VR, leading a team of over 25. We've got over 30,000 users in virtual reality using this today, and we're growing exponentially. Before that, I got a master's in systems engineering, university medalist at the top of the university, and got the highest national research award in Canada for the level in machine learning and the technology inside virtual reality. I've raised millions of venture capital and grants. I've got over 5X business awards and dozens of tech awards. So now here's what we're about to talk about today. First part one is the story. This is about the lessons of the passion and perseverance and why failure is really absolutely necessary. I know, some of that's sort of hard to take sometimes, but it really is very important. And that first part comes across as like a story. And then the second part is talking about how you can actually use it. It's very a shift of gears and being less about story and more about as much information as we can give you in a short period of time. Now, when I was asked to talk about this, it said that, we don't just want to hear all the positive things. We want to hear of the challenges and obstacles along the way. But I don't think they may have known how deep this rabbit hole goes. And the truth is that I've never actually told this story before. So you're all about to hear it for the first time. Well, actually, anybody's about to hear it for the first time. But to understand it, it starts many years before ever even creating this company. At a young age, I had to go through a lot of struggles and obstacles. And this is what helped me grow and to be able to do what I could do today. Go back to grade 2 and I was misdiagnosed. I had appendix ruptured. I was hospitalized for an entire month. And I had to fight through that. The doctor said I probably wasn't going to survive. And every day I had to fight to make it through that. Well, thankfully the doctors were wrong and I'm here today. But, it continued on in this way. Shortly after, my parents broke up, and that could be hard for, a child to be from a broken family. But what made it harder is that, we didn't have any money, like charity presents money, sort of, like so little that, you'd get gifts from like charities for Christmas sort of thing. And my mother's partner was, after my father was a huge alcoholic. So that was sort of every day was a challenge on that way. We had a rough neighborhood, and he eventually drank himself to death. So there's been times where it's not even sure if things are worth living, but as you get through that, it just gets you stronger and stronger. And now that can make a whole story on its own. But fast forward a few years, and I first get to university. This was the first out of any of my family trees to go to university. And the truth is, from the high school I went to, less than 10% of people in the graduating class were still continued on to university even a year later. So, not so surprising. My grades weren't that great. Pretty much was failing out. And then, it occurred to me then to start actually, taking advice and following my passions. So I really got into, machine learning and specifically how the humans do it. And that sort of flipped everything around, where I went from, all F's to basically getting, really good grades. And, but even with that flip, I still didn't think I was, good enough to get any type of scholarships or awards or anything like that. But I was encouraged to apply anyways. Well, I didn't get I didn't think I was going to get the lowest one, and I didn't get that one. I ended up getting the highest national one in Canada, where I'm from. And, next thing I know, I'm getting A+ in everything. I graduated university medalist at the top of the university, and then had all the universities across Canada reaching out to me if I would come and work with them for grad work. So then, took an offer from University of Waterloo, where I got the opportunity to focus on the junction of machine learning, computer vision, robotics, and the technology, motion capture, the technology inside of virtual reality. So that was really exciting and did really well there. I was nominated for international awards. Essentially from that point, then, I was considering an offer from, I was a lab at MIT that wanted me to go there. Said I've been in school long enough, head back to Ottawa and where I'm from, and there's no jobs. So, basically, I started over from scratch again, where I had, I basically picked up a job as a web developer. Specifically no jobs in my area of machine learning and all that stuff. This is about a decade ago, before it was popular. And started from a junior engineer. And then within, 2 years, I went from a junior engineer to a technical director, leading large scale government projects. We've been doing the Prime Minister's office and a number of others. At this point, I decided I was going to do my own thing. And this is where the start of Masterpiece VR comes. So I was that was the start of Masterpiece VR. And I took all the money I had and, instead of buying a house and a car, I used that to seed start this company. And, I maybe had a little bit of tech, but I knew nothing about business. And as of now, my role as CEO, that was the most important part of what I had to do. But knowing nothing about business, I couldn't get any funding. I couldn't get any grants. I couldn't even get any customers because I was really that bad at it. And so I decided, just when I felt like I was low and I wasn't good enough to do it, I actually got Bell's palsy and had half my entire face paralyzed. Now it's hard enough as it is, but trying to make relationships where, this is where you make a smile. The doctor said I wasn't going to recover from it, and that I just had to make a decision, give up shop or, just keep finding a way. So I decided on the latter, just to keep finding a way. And that was great. So I decided I read as many books in business as I could. I read over 100. I got all the mentors of the smartest people I could find to help me understand this deeper. And then I finally started to understand how everything works. But then a downside came, and I we were running out of money. So with less than a week left of having money, we got accepted to the top startup accelerator in the world for virtual reality, Boost VC in Silicon Valley. That gave us enough money, and turned out there was, a lot of people doing these crazy things. At the start, everyone told me I was crazy doing this stuff, doing this. You're trying to democratize for hundreds of millions of people the creation of 3D content. Like, what are you using? Virtual reality, machine learning? That's just kind of crazy talk where I'm from. But now there's a lot of people doing it. Well, so things were looking optimistic, but right around that time, VR went through a downturn, and all the investors stopped funding virtual reality. So that led to the next challenge, trying to figure out how to build something and add real value to the world when no one, not even investors, believe that it's going to be a thing anymore. So we then ended up running out of money another 3 additional times. Now, it's one thing if it's just you, but now imagine that you have 24 people and, they're about to be laid off, and they have families. That's a whole other level of stress. So I continued to work like 80, 100-hour weeks and focused all my energy and managed to pull it off. Time after time, in these times, in these crunches, I managed to pull off, $250,000 or $500,000 in extension funding each time. And I'm sort of pleased to say that, we're finally, running well. We've got over 30,000 users on our platform. We've got one of the leading VR 3D creation tools worldwide. We've got partnerships with the major tech companies, and we're on exponential growth now. And in 1 month, we'll be able to do the entire production pipeline within virtual reality, just, greatly simplifying the creation of content. So things are now looking, extremely exciting. I can actually start paying myself now. And we're now on an exponential growth. And we're not going to stop until we get to, hundreds of millions of users and enable 1 billion people to do this. So I didn't tell you all these things so that, you'd feel pity for me. I told you them for you to understand that the more struggle you can go through, the more that you will build. I mean, to do something great, you need to accept the failure and take it as a challenge and grow from it. And that, the more challenge, you can't take the biggest challenge on unless you, work your mental ability to overcome obstacles and persevere, find your passion and persevere. So, if you're not failing often enough, then, that failing often is not a sign of losing. It's a sign that you're taking on big challenge. So if you're not failing like 90% of the time, then you're probably not shooting high enough. So I'd love to encourage any of you people out there who want to create a startup or create a studio of their own. It can be one of the most rewarding things that you can ever do. And, and I'd love it if you, on your own time, maybe, either right now or later today, just think about what are the obstacles holding you back, and then don't let that smash through those doors. So that's the first part. That's the story. That's the first time I ever told that story behind Masterpiece VR. Now the second part. This is where you can learn about how to actually use what we've built and use what other people in our space will tell you about the whole ecosystem as well. Now, creating 3D is a pain. It takes a huge amount of work, a huge amount of effort to learn the software, but it doesn't need to be this way. So let's talk about what's going on right now. Well, right now you're creating 3D using a 2D interface, a screen and a mouse, and there's a mismatch between the interface. It makes it slow, it's expensive, it takes years to learn how to create this software. How to use this software to create things. To give an analogy on why this is the wrong interface, let's look at something similar. If you want to create 2D with a 1D, right? Etch-a-Sketch is essentially 2 1D knobs that you use to create a 2D picture. Now, this person's creates Starry Nights, but I'll tell you, that's easier looking at it than doing it. This is extremely challenging to do. But if instead you just use a 2D interface to do 2D, like a Wacom tablet, then it becomes easy. It becomes natural because there's a 1-for-1 match between the interface. Well, virtual reality is the first truly native 3D interface, and it allows you to easily interact and create 3D. We've demonstrated well over 10 times improvements in speed and over 200 times quicker, where the average person takes only a few seconds to be able to start creating organic 3D modeling. When you compare that to the traditional tools, where that could take you hundreds of hours to learn how to do. So what we've created now is this amazing new platform, the Masterpiece Studio, that lets you go all the way from concept to animation. I'll show you a quick video of this. Hopefully it streams okay. We'll see. So here what you're seeing is a scene that was created using our software. Now what you can do is you can put on the virtual reality headset and you can start to sculpt with your hands, as you see kind of happening quickly here. You can create all different kinds of structures as well that you'd use in your scene. You can then rig it and skin it so you can prepare for animation. Then you can export it. And here we export it to Substance Painter to get some extra touch. And then you can export it and use it in whatever animation that you're looking to do. And then I'll dive down a little bit deeper into that in a bit. So not only can you create things quick and easily, one of the powers that it does is to give co-creation. Now, our original product, Masterpiece VR, allowed you to do this. But in just 1 month, we're getting an advanced update to that in Masterpiece Studio, that allows real-time co-creation, enabling you and your team to work and to create content, no matter where you're located, locked down anywhere in the world. You and your team can come together in virtual reality, talk to each other, interact, and create together as a team. So here I wanted to give a contrast in the speed comparison. Here was a speed test done with to copy a robot. And the one on the left here was done in ZBrush by Jeremy. He's got 10 years experience doing 3D modeling, and it took him 10 hours to do that model, to get it to explicit detail. On the right, using Masterpiece VR, Ian was able to do a similar one in just 45 minutes. And he has no 3D modeling experience. Granted, he is also an artist, but he has no previous 3D modeling experience. So to put it other way, an untrained professional without 3D modeling experience was able to create comparable content to someone using ZBrush 14 times faster. Now that's incredible increases in speed. Now, when I talk about democratizing 3D content, we're talking about the ease of use, right? So I like to make the analogy with, making your own engine versus using Unity and Unreal. You guys are all gamers, and if you remember back in the day, before Unity and Unreal, people needed to make their engines from scratch. Now, sure, some of the large companies still do it this way, but for the most part, people will use Unreal and Unity because it just makes it that much easier. Well, we're looking to do the same thing with creating assets. Today it can be done with, Maya or 3ds Max or Blender. But, tomorrow we're looking at democratizing this, allowing anybody to use Masterpiece Studio to do this. Now, sure, the large companies might, if you need something really polished, you may still want to put it into the traditional software to get exactly what you want. But you can do everything much faster when you have a product that allows it to be democratized. Our software works with all existing 3D modeling software. So if you want to create something quick and edit it in a traditional app, you're absolutely welcome to do so, or pop it right into Unity and Unreal and start using it in your game. It can be used for creating illustrations. It can be used for creating animations. If you want to 3D print, let's say you have a character in your game that you'd like to 3D print, It can send it right to a printer. You can use it for making, movies of your games. And specifically, you can make it for, creating game assets as well. Now, I will mention that if you need the high polish, you will probably want to put it into another product, a traditional 3D modeling tool in the end to get those extra sharpness. But this will enable, your concept artists, people that may not have those 3D modeling skills, to quickly create the content and even to block out your scene. So what do you need to actually use this? Well, you need a virtual reality headset. It has to be a PC-based 6.1. So any of the ones you see here, and you have to have at least the minimum VR specs of 1060 or higher. But I do recommend, if you're going to be doing this seriously, having a 1070 or 1080 or higher will allow you to go more detailed. So there's a lot on this page, but I'm just going to quickly summarize it. Our tools, virtual reality tools versus the traditional ones. We're more targeted a little bit more towards the concept artists, creative executives, the makers, fine artists, designers, or even a developer, for example, who just wants to quickly try things out. Although we are useful for the 3D modeler and the 3D animator who do this full time with traditional tools, they can use our software to accelerate it. The biggest value that we add is that ease of use. So we're particularly useful for the creatives who are maybe perhaps a little less technical. And ours provides real-time, worldwide collaboration. There's no experience required. And as I mentioned, we've got speeds up to 10 times increase. So here's a little bit about our platform. It comes with two main apps, Masterpiece Creator. That's the main sculpting app. And then Masterpiece Motion, which prepares it for animation. We also will be inviting third-party apps to our platform soon to integrate in an easy turnkey way. And as I mentioned before, this connects to any existing 3D modeling software. Now, here's quickly sort of the VR 3D modeling landscape. We've got Masterpiece Creator, Medium, Blocks, and a number of other ones that are great for painting. And I'll dive deeper into this in a second. And then you have other ones for the animation part. Right? You have Masterpiece Motion, which will allow you to prepare it for animation, or you can plug it right into your Unity or Unreal Engine. Or if you want to keep it within VR, you can use Flipside, Ori, or Quill for showing quickly kind of illustrating what you want to do. So here's a kind of a quick, feel free to take a screen snapshot if you want of this. But we've kind of broken down into what each app can do. Now, the ones that you see this 3D type, there's a drawing and modeling. The drawing's good for if you just want to do kind of quick sketches, but the modeling is necessary to create solid geometry that's going to be used for your game. And it shows kind of which app can do which feature. Beside it, we also show what parts of the pipeline we can do. There's many stages, there's you could create the concept, the 3D model. You got to clean up that mesh. You've got to UV unwrap it, texture it, rig it so that you can animate it, skin it so that it bends over the bones, blend shapes so you can do facial animations and things, and then some asset animation. And then in the scene animation, you can either do that in VR or pop that into Unity and Unreal and finish it there. So talking a little bit about the VR space, where we've been seeing exponential increases in headsets. The statements where VR is dying are completely ridiculous. If you look at the Steam data, it is on an exponential growth. And IDC is one of the most respected market research out there. They're showing estimating 86 million headsets by 2023. So this isn't even the highest estimate. These are sort of the middle range, very reasonable estimates. Then you got the backing of people like Mark Zuckerberg, who's invested billions of dollars into this and is doing everything. His goal is to put 1 billion people into virtual reality, and there's just a few of the companies that are supporting this underneath as well. So right now, there is a revolution happening here. There's an amazing thing where there's now an easy and quick way to create 3D content. And this is leading to, the democratization of 3D content, where there's 0.1 percentage of people, of creatives, can also do 3D modeling. This opens up the door for the other 99.9% of creatives to create 3D content. So once again, I'm John Gagne, the CEO of Masterpiece VR. You're welcome to reach out if you need anything. And, thank you everybody for listening.
John, it was great talking. I'm glad to have you on at this time because it's actually a perfect opportunity for me to kind of dig deep into not only Masterpiece VR, but also talking more in depth about, the landscape of VR itself, because you are the most expert person I've had on because you guys are constantly looking at this space. And even with previous guests and who we've talked to in our roundtable discussions, it's only been speculative because we're only looking at it from a game developer, but still outside that circle. And I think what your last few slides and everything that you've been talking about have illustrated that the VR space is growing, and finally people are realizing the potential and how getting excited, right? And a lot of that is just a lot of what these other tech companies are kind of driving forward with and making sure that it becomes accessible. And a lot of that, I wonder how much of that is attributed to the Quest just finally getting rid of like those 10 cameras set up.
There's so many key pieces. The Quest is selling like hotcakes. People love the Quest, and it's great because it's just reducing friction, right? Just as you said, it's getting rid of those cameras, which is a key thing. You don't need any external hardware. And really that's happening every year. We're removing roadblocks that are making it easier and easier for people to just pop in and start experiencing it. So that's one of the key things. But the truth is actually that for the last about 6 months, most of the VR headsets have been sold out in most places. And if you look at the Steam data, we've got something like, just over the last few months, we've had something like double the number of monthly active users. At the same time, this is useful for the developers in hearing at this conference. Over the last year, the demand for VR devs has increased 1,400% over the year before. 1,400% for you guys out there who are VR devs. Other factors is Half-Life Alyx. Wow. That's mind-blowing. I don't know if you've had a chance to try it yet, especially with the Index controllers. It is, there's a reason why it's Metacritic's top game of the year so far and one of the top 20 games of all time. It is truly the first, true VR first AAA game that has ever been made.
Yeah, I think
and this is just to mention a few. Yeah.
Yeah, like one of the long running joke between me and we have a frequent guest on named Ray is that he's a huge proponent of like, have you heard of Beat Saber, right? I was like, come on, man. Beat Saber is great, but I come from playing AAA. I work in AAA. I want to see a AAA quality game, and I'm with you with Half-Life Alyx. I felt like it was a dawn of a new era for VR because game developers, I think initially the hardcore, it's even the word hardcore is hard to define nowadays. It's like, what does hardcore mean? But I feel like at least my hardcore audience that I grew up with, the people that love looking at graphical fidelity upgrades and playing the latest and greatest tech, saw Half-Life Alyx as a blossoming of a new market of finally people are going to take this seriously and see the realities of the outcome of using virtual reality, right? And I'm sure it sounds like you and your team are super excited because it's finally hitting that point where I felt like when the first Oculus was announced through Kickstarter that we've reached that stage where we're like, okay, now I can see myself living in this world and be embraced by it fully.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is, that was an exciting time with the Kickstarter. And then there was, a couple of years after that, the hype cycle continued to go, and it was just presented in the way to appear. It was the wow factor that got it, but it wasn't at that point adding real value outside of just the oh my god, wow, I'm in another universe. It needs to add real value after that wow wears off, and it's taken this many years, and it's finally there. There are games that are amazing, AAA game. We talked about Half-Life Alyx. And the mod kits have just been coming out, and they're going to be continuing to add to. So all these new games are going to explode from that one game. At the same time, even outside of the gaming space, for like I'm doing, for example, with creating the apps to support gaming. We've been working. There's been we put 70 developer years so far of work on this app. And it's taken that long just to crack the surface. So, we've been competing. The reality is we've been competing against billion-dollar companies where the bar is set so high for non-VR apps and games. But we've finally reached that. We're finally adding true value today. And, that's the reason why even like Apple and all these companies are starting to make headsets in the background. And what's really exciting actually is with 5G. So, what they're making in the background here, I can't give names to this because we've got a lot of NDAs here. Mm-hmm. But the part I can tell you is that there's headsets being built that are 5G enabled. They will have a cable. The phone doesn't plug into it, right? The phone doesn't go on the headset. It just plugs in, and it then basically you just have the screen and the sensors on the headset. It's lightweight. It's really cheap to make. The compute happens. Some of it happens on the phone, and the rest happens over 5G on cloud compute on the edge, on GPU compute on the edge. And that's crazy because then you can have a lightweight headset, cheap headset, low friction that can do rendering that your PC could never do.
Yeah, that's huge. Cloud computing, cloud gaming, over the last, I would say even just a year, have made major jumps. I think initially when the last Xbox kind of scared a lot of people, saying that it always has to be plugged in, the world wasn't ready, right? But now more than ever, people are embracing cloud tech, having that availability to move across different devices freely and openly, and not be bogged down by the high prices of entry of a lot of these headsets. Yeah. And what you're saying sounds like another step towards like, hey man, let's just make these super cheap and let's just have people put glasses on essentially that doesn't cost much for them to kind of embrace. Because a lot of the barriers I felt like before was just getting people to wear the headsets, right? Because once they put the headset on, everyone gets it. No one's questioning the technology after they play a demo, especially if we put them on Half-Life Alyx. It's like, I get it, right? Yeah. And it's always just that, first it was the core to the PC element of it. And then, having the phone explode on your face, potentially. And then we moved past that, removing all the cameras. And then finally having like this very lightweight Quest. And then now you're saying, well, you have your phone anyways, just have it in your pocket, just plug it in and just power this very lightweight cardboard box. Not cardboard, but like something, as not as cheap, but like the idea of it being very accessible. Sounds very, very awesome. And I always look at pioneers such as yourself and like what Valve is doing, right? Valve is like a sleeping dragon, right? They rarely do anything outside of their cash cow of Steam and Dota and all these Counter-Strike, successful formulas that they've played with for years. And then finally they announced their own headset. They're dedicating all their future games to VR, right? That's when the game industry has to take attention, because it's like, all right, something's going on with the space that they know about, and what you guys are doing know about, because it's completely true. Like, and I'll lead into a question. I won't ramble too on. So my question is this. So yesterday, actually, we had Zach Rich on, and it was a very interesting conversation to kind of cap off day 2, where he kind of drop some knowledge bombs more about the user generated space, right? We're talking about Roblox, Minecraft. And I feel like there's a lot of similarities to what you guys are doing, where we're just removing the barriers for a lot of interested potential game developers. And going through school myself, I know there's like a huge influx of people interested in this space, but because of the tools and application and the stress that comes with it, a lot of people don't make it till the end, right? To actually game development, right? So this is something I think what you and your company is echoing is like, hey, let's remove all that problem, because the user generated space is a lot of those people who want to be game devs, who are doing game dev, but without having to learn like the traditional tools of even Unity, Unreal, just skipping that completely and just making something from Dreams or these more accessible programs. And you're talking more about more VR being that entryway for a lot of people.
Absolutely. So, VR just makes it, it's the interface problem that I was talking to at the beginning. When there's a mismatch, it just makes it hard. It's like using an Etch-a-Sketch to draw a picture. Well, that's the situation we're in with 3D modeling, right? If you can natively just interact with it, then everything becomes easier, whether you're using a VR headset or actually there's some really amazing AR headsets that are just a couple of years out from being into production that are incredible. Like, the truth is that people, think AR is big with their phone. No, AR on the phone is bullshit. Mm-hmm. The reason that Apple, the reason that Google are getting everybody into this space is because they're building headsets. It's a fact that they're building headsets. And, once you have, a bazillion developers who understand this technology, and then you have the headset which is lightweight, connects to the cloud. It's stylish because they're made by, some of these design companies. I think actually the Facebook one, what I heard, I can't remember if it was Luxottica or, one of these other sunglass companies, possibly the ones that do Ray-Ban. They're designing, anyways, the rumors are that they're designing the headset. So it looks great. You look good while you're doing it. It's cheap and it's powerful. It's a no-brainer at that point. Yeah. And, to add to all this, machine learning is just doing amazing things. If you look what it's doing in the 2D world, you can literally just take your pen and draw across the screen and go trees, road, house, and it will automatically adapt everything in the scene and create those as if it's realistic. Well, we're just a couple of years off from doing that in 3D. But that's where we're headed. Right now we use deep learning already to automate a lot of these complicated functions in our software. But, in a few years from now, we're going to be generating content from scratch with machine learning.
Yeah, a lot of what you're saying is definitely what I'm seeing in the underbelly of game development, right? So machine learning, deep AI, especially procedural world building is because I come from a background in environment art, and games are growing, right? With Unreal Engine 5 and all these expectations, the team isn't really growing that much more. And so the only way to achieve that fidelity is through procedural or machine learning, relying on the computer to kind of assist with the world building to make it accessible to game developers to actually make. And kind of like what you're talking about, there was a company like Procedural AI, or I forgot the name, but it was a bunch of ex developers from Naughty Dog who pretty much had this kind of like a Siri service that helps design a bedroom, right? The idea is to like, hey, here's a bunch of references from the 80s, make me a 80s like bedroom for a 10-year-old kid, right? But it's assets provided into the machine, and then it's able to range around. And this is very early tech. But when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay. I'm not completely fearful of like these guys are going to replace my job, but it's more like this is exciting because this is where it's going to be assisting me to display my creativity, right? And it's the only way to
That's
do
right.
it because people are going to expect more. The gamers, the publishers, anybody that's giving you money is expecting your team to deliver this fantastical world with your very limited amount of teams. So the only way that actually give into that is using tools like what you guys are doing for a lot of creators out there, like Masterpiece VR, to kind of speed up the flow and not necessarily compound more people and jump at the problem, right? That's what game developers or studios like to do. They just throw people at it to make it go faster, but there's a breaking point, as we all know in our experience.
You're totally right with that. I mean, we're not replacing the jobs. We're just empowering them to do more, right? And, you're always going to need people that are creative and that have the mind and can see the object. It's a natural progress. The tools get, better over time. And I'm going to be honest with you, even the downsides of our software, there's certain reasons why you shouldn't even use our software. Like, let's say you need to do something like super detailed and with, whole Pixar quality or like super detailed AAA quality end result. Our product is not great for doing that end result yet because it still needs to mature enough. But I can't name the name here, but there are AAA companies with some AAA gaming content that is coming out where the concept art and the original 3D models from the concept team are made with our software. So, if you're making like an indie game, you can make it from start to finish with our software today. And especially, wait till a month from now for a big update coming out. It's a game changer update. Some really exciting stuff that's going to allow you to do the full pipeline for an indie game inside of here. But even if you're out there and you're coming from a AAA studio and you're earlier in the pipeline, our software is super useful even for that.
So I have actually a question here, and I want to remind everybody, if you want to talk to John directly, filtered through me, right? It's so somewhat indirectly. Go ahead and ask in the social channels. As an aspiring VR dev, this is from Green Gift. What would your be recommended steps to get food into the door nowadays? So this is kind of like jumping off of what you mentioned before. There's an increase of need for VR developers. How do you recommend these VR developers? Where should they look? Where should they start applying their skills to?
That's a broad question. So I'll have to make some assumptions in that. There's, it depends if you're making your own studio or if you want to be hired from an existing studio. Is there a follow-up with that? Which direction it is? This is a very different.
Let's just go with maybe an existing studio for now until he asks again.
Okay. Yeah. If you're in an existing studio, then, I would just continue to develop your skills in that area and, meet as many people as you can. Don't forget the power of networking. A lot of jobs come about where people don't even get posts. You just meet the right people and you showcase their skills. And I can't speak for every studio, but I can tell you what I look for is I like to see that you're not just, okay, you've done more than just your gaming degree or something small aside. I want to see that you have a passion for it. I want to see that you're willing to put those hours into just really making it something great. So I also look for, having projects on the side that you're working on outside of your schooling or your main stuff. Get yourself a portfolio, something that you can showcase, and it doesn't have to be like massive one, but if you can show like a few pieces that are super polished, that's really exciting to me. And those are the kind of qualities that I'm looking for, is that, that skill and also that passion. Other things now, also, I can't comment on whether or not how much these gaming studios are caring about it, but I can tell you that it's going to greatly improve your quality as a programmer. One of the big problems is a lot of these gaming schools don't actually teach really good programming skills. I hate to say that, but like it's the truth. I've never met someone that came out of school that knew how to write scalable code. So, learn what a code smell is, learn your programming patterns, learn, about dependency injection and ways that you can write code that's scalable. Because if, sometimes companies will give an assignment, right? They may ask you to do certain tasks, and you may go home and you want to work on it. Well, they might look at, the quality of what you've done. They might look at your code quality too. So I guess to sum it up there, I'd say, showcase some great stuff. If you can do some great computer graphics stuff, it seems like from, my experience, those are very valuable skills. And, get something to showcase, learn how to code properly, not just the crap that some of your teachers told you. And then go out there and network, meet people, as many people as you can in the industry, and learn from them. And I'd say that would be your best bet.
I guess for the follow-up for me personally, if you are a VR developer, what companies or what industry should I be looking at right now to apply for jobs?
By industry, you mean like gaming or other? Gaming is the biggest, right?
Gaming is the biggest skill right now? Okay.
Oh yeah, gaming is the biggest. Right now that the headset manufacturers, they're looking all over the place, but they know that like the gamers have the best, usually some of the best PCs, right? So there's a big opportunity there for gaming. The majority of the apps still made are games, and some of the highest grossing apps right now are still games. So the great thing is that your game development skills are useful in anything relating to VR, because 95 plus, more than 95% of all VR apps are built off of Unity or Unreal to some level. So I'd say your best bet would be, look for a gaming company in your area or even remote that's, needs someone with your skills. But the great thing is that if you want to decide to do something outside of gaming, your game development skills are really useful. And I want to tell you something else exciting. This is a little bit outside the question, but it's my personal belief that Unity and Unreal are the next generation of not just gaming engines, but of computer programming. We're all going into a digital visual world. So I really think that your skills there are just going to be, even outside of gaming, give it, 5 to 10 years, and they're going to be needed everywhere.
Yeah, I definitely sign off on that. I'm seeing a lot of these enterprise companies already looking at Unreal developers, Unity developers to kind of help develop their product, and not just programming, but every discipline who have game knowledge, especially in those two ecosystem, are very valuable for sure. This is a question from Nightwolf. Can Masterpiece VR work with AR for those that do not have a VR headset?
So right now, there's sort of only two ways to do AR. There's the phone-based one, and there is the AR headsets. Now, the AR headsets are really in a primitive state right now, and they're not really good for direct interaction with the world. Like you could do things like this and stuff like that, but it doesn't have the fidelity to create. So you can't use an AR headset to do it. And you also can't use an AR phone yet to do it, because you do need that touch, that high precision touch interaction. So you'll need a VR headset today to use this software. In a few years, you'll be able to use an AR headset. But also, just to note, later this year, this is not public yet, but I'll let you guys know. We're also going to be building a non-VR version later this year. Now, it's a sort of graceful degradation of capability. You've got the best power if you've got a headset. But I can say that, as I said before, the price is going down a lot, and it'll get easier and easier to get one of those.
Definitely. It's actually a follow-up question for me. You were mentioning about AR and how the phone is kind of being used as a Trojan horse to kind of get developers feet wet in learning that tech and being used to developing for that tech, but they are building AR headsets. A lot of these tech companies. I mean, we saw some of it with Microsoft and Magic Leap, but at least the Microsoft said they're militarizing it within the army, but we know for a fact the other tech companies are definitely seeing a future with AR, and in a lot of ways, I feel like AR is like the entryway for a lot of people into this space.
Yeah.
A lot more natural, and it's crazy amount of applications to kind of be a medium or a median between me and interacting in the world. So like an extra layer, right? With that being said, I want to hear your take about if you can educate us more about the AR world as well, because it's something that's been kind of quiet versus VR, and I think if anything, they're just very much just developing behind the scenes. But any insight on that would be great.
Well, so how to focus on this? This is a lot. So there's levels of development. There's a technical amount of complexity that's required to do AR. Now, phone AR is one thing, but talking about AR, I'm saying, that's just a gateway to the headset AR, which some people call MR, mixed reality. So as you said, you saw, Magic Leap, Microsoft, but, the bigger one, some big ones in behind the scene, is Google. They're building one as well. Apple, they're building one as well. There's some other ones that I can't speak about because they're under NDA. I'm allowed to say those ones because I happen to know about some things, but it's also public rumors. But there are other companies as well making high quality headsets in this space. But there's a delay between it, and I, to avoid going into the detailed complexity of basically motion capture technology, and basically what they have to do is like an advanced version of something called SLAM. It's where you do a type of complex filtering where you understand, basically you simultaneously have to solve the equation of where the environment is based off of where the headset is, and where the headset is based off of the environment. So it's this statistical, equations, and often it includes machine learning, where it does this really complex process to be able to get it. And that's where the Quest and these things have started to do pretty well. But, you need to keep doing this better and better. And you need to have it in lighter ways to get for the AR headset. That's been a challenge. And now that that's starting to get better, there's still other huge challenges like the screens, right? There was one a few years, there's been some headsets where, it basically has like a mirror on top, and you have a screen and it projects it onto the glass, and it uses like 100-year-old technology called Pepper's Ghost. But that's really bulky and it's not scalable. Instead, some of the better headsets like the HoloLens and stuff, they use like wave guides. But there's huge problems in extending the field of view to that. So there's a number of technical challenges to get it. So we're a couple of years off from getting to AR. But the way I kind of see it is we're going to have sort of 3 stages. First, because VR is a little bit easier to build, VR is going to be the bigger one, right? Then once the AR headsets, AR is going to be the bigger one because now they're going to look sleek and you can walk around anywhere with them. And then, so some people think that AR is the bigger one, but I actually disagree. I say it depends on the time frame. I truly believe that in the next stage after that, in the long run, we might be 1 or 2 decades away from that VR will eventually be even bigger because, once the virtual world gets better in every way than the real world, why the hell would you be in the real world? And then there's always going to be some people that are like, no, man, I don't like that. I like the real world, cool. That's no problem. But then what about the next generation? What about the kids who grew up in that? They don't already have an affinity to any world. They're going to pick whichever world's better. So I think VR is bigger now. AR is going to be bigger in a few years, and then give it 1-2 decades. VR is going to be the biggest of them all.
I definitely sign off on that message. There's a reason why the Matrix is in VR, not AR. So I want to thank you, John. We are at that hour mark, and I want to thank you for coming on and sponsoring for the event. It actually is a great time to kind of remind everyone we are raffling off copies for Masterpiece VR, to go ahead and go to gdox.me to see how to enter. People are already thinking and tweeting at Masterpiece VR throughout the last 3 days, talking about which their favorite presenter is and what the presentation means to them. So go ahead and do that. But before I send you off, I'm going to hand the mic over to you to kind of give the shout out, give attention to, tell people how to connect to you after GDUX.
Oh, thank you for having me out today. I've got my information up on the screen in the bottom left. You can follow us. We've got our website, masterpiecevr.com, Twitter and Insta at masterpiecevr, Facebook at Facebook/masterpiecevr. You can also reach me if you need something at jon.gagne@masterpiecevr.com. Now, just like to say one more thing to those licenses we're giving out. Just for any clarity, that's not the original consumer product, Masterpiece VR. That's the subscription, the professional product, Masterpiece Studios, that would be given license out for that. And as I mentioned before, it's great right now, but in 1 month from now, check it out again then on top of that, and you're really going to be impressed by, all the capability that it has.
Well, thanks a lot.
So
John.
Once again, thanks everybody.
Yeah, thanks for being having an honest conversation, talking to a lot of developers out there who are looking to start out and push through and become a success, man. It was really enlightening to kind of hear your story and how Masterpiece VR kind of came about, and it's a story that I want to amplify as much as possible. So thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you. I'd like to say, just hopefully I didn't scare anybody with that. Maybe didn't put enough emphasis on how effing rewarding it is. So the bigger the challenge, the more rewarding. And this is the single best decision and the most rewarding thing I've ever done. So I encourage anybody else who has any ambitions to do anything in their space to do the same.
Well, thank you again, man. And I'll be sure to connect after this.
Perfect. Take care.
Take care.
This is